Hey there, listeners. Thank you for tuning in again to Tokyo Wave. Unfortunately, we don't have a new episode for you this week, but we are starting a new series on Tokyo Wave called Tokyo Wave Rewind, where we go back to some of our more interesting guest interviews and let you listen to interviews that you might have listened to a year or two ago, or maybe if you're a new listener, you have never heard about or listened to. And we're starting off with an absolute banger. Pirates of Tokyo Bay improv comedian, DJ, wine expert, and Scatman aficionado, Jim Andretta. In this episode, he shares stories about his time as part of Charred Goosebeak, which is actually the improv group that turned into Broken Lizard of Super Troopers fame, his story of importing wine into Japan, and the ins and outs of the Japanese comedy scene, and how he likes to collect vinyl records. Wow! I don't even remember talking about that. So, without further ado, take it away, and let's rewind.
Tokyo Wave Rewinds.
So, today we have with us our special guest, Jim Andretta. Jim is an improv comedian, DJ, and IT specialist, originally from New York. Jim's been living here in Tokyo since 2005. Jim tells us that his interests, this sounds like a dating program. His interests include wine, record collecting, and Scatman music trivia. All right, ladies, the Scatman. In addition to his podcast, Golden Guys, Jim performs regularly with the Pirates of Tokyo Bay, which is how I know him. And yeah, welcome on Tokyo Wave.
I'm excited to be here, you guys. How's it going?
It's going good. Thanks so much, Jim. It's great to have you here today.
Absolutely.
We're making a little cluster here in Omotesando.
Yeah, Mitsu guys. Mitsu desu. Mitsu.
So we've got 3 people, so we have 3 Mitsus.
Uh-oh.
We're all going to die.
Cue the Kill Bill sound right there.
Now, Governor Koike's just going to like barge in through this wall like the Kool-Aid man and be like, oh no. So, I don't know. Whenever I meet a new foreigner, and of course, Jim and I have met before, but I've never asked Jim about your Japan story. So tell us, what brought you to the land of the rising sun?
Sure, yeah. I guess you guys both listen to Thundercat. I've heard Thundercat on this program. Have you heard, he has a lyric about like Goku ruined him?
No, I haven't heard that.
So, I mean, I think very similarly, we're from a generation where, at least in America, we were raised on a steady diet of Adult Swim, which is a long-time television broadcast.
We just talked about this a couple of episodes ago. We wanted a deep dive about it, yeah.
Yeah. So I think that just impacting everybody born in the 80s and early 90s, that just had a huge impact on all of us, and then ruined me, so to speak. Goku ruined me, and here I am.
That bastard, Goku.
I think we're crossing South Park and Dragon Ball Z now, but yes.
Yeah. No, heavy doses of Adult Swim, and like you said, South Park. South Park had some really incredible references to Japan back in the day.
Oh, the entire, hey, let's go, Kenkatsu, Taisetsu no Mono, protect my balls, that episode?
Yes, that one, and the Chim Pokemon episode.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
One of my favorites.
You know, Chim Pokemon really, it struck a chord, like, it really hit close to home, because the way in which they finally got the kids to stop being obsessed with it was just like their parents started liking it. I'm a Chim Pokemon! You're like, that's stupid.
Yeah, Jim, I saw you work in a commercial that's, I think, coming out soon. It was really well done. So do you mainly do acting and comedy here in Japan?
I've been doing comedy for about 10 years now. I joined an improv group that was originally founded by the guys that made the movie Super Troopers. Have you ever saw that?
Oh, my God, yeah.
So I joined their
Broken
improv
Lizard.
team. Yep. Yeah, I was in the team that, they were originally called Charred Goosebeak, and then they had to change their name to Broken Lizard.
What was it taken?
I guess so. Some copyright nonsense.
That was
but originally joined their team, and then have been doing comedy ever since. And now Pirates, we're a bilingual improv comedy group. We perform usually monthly in Ibisu What the Dickens. Recently, we've been doing YouTube live shows in lieu of our typical bar shows. But yeah.
So, did you actually get to hang out with the Super Trooper guys?
Yeah, they a very funny story about how they met. The guy that plays Rabbit, when he met Jay Chandrasekhar, the Indian American fellow, the first time they met, Rabbit, for people who don't know, actually has a prosthetic leg, a real prosthetic leg. The actor that plays Rabbit.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And they were both in a theater workshop class where they had to build sets, and they were both egging each other on, doing progressively more like violent things to their own body to see who had a higher pain threshold. Rabbit took a staple gun and shot it through his jeans into his prosthetic leg, which Jay did not know was a prosthetic leg. So Jay, in a very heavy Indian accent, said, like, you think you're so tough, like I can do that too, is about to do it. And then Rabbit looks at Jay, he's like, wait, no, it's a fake leg, don't do him, it's a fake leg. And then Jay looked at Rabbit and he went, well, this has been a fake accent, bitch. And they were friends for life after that.
That is... Whoa.
Wow.
So you came to Japan in 2005, which is actually close to when I came to Japan. I came to Japan first in 2005, but permanently in 2007. What brought you here originally?
I did a couple exchange programs. So I first came to Tokyo that summer. Lived with the son of a guy that ran like Prudential Japan.
Oh, wow.
And his brother is actually Kevin Feige, who's the executive producer of all the Marvel movies. So my first impression of Japan is, wow, everybody's rich as balls. Second time was a little bit different.
That's crazy.
Not everybody has a live-in maid and a private driver. Oh, okay, right.
Shit.
And Utada Hikaru's here. This is amazing.
That's too good.
So I went to Sophia University, which is kind of funny. You mentioned Utada Hikaru. One of the first experiences I had in Sophia was one of my friends was an upperclassman. I went to his graduation ceremony. And of course, part of his graduating class was Crystal K. Just Crystal K, just like wearing a, hakama, graduating from college, normal stuff.
She's really got to work. She's got to get a job after this. I don't know what she's going to do. You got to do Shishoku Katsudo, Crystal K?
I think she continued her music career, but we heard about her a lot like 10 years ago, but maybe not so much recently. Yeah. Maybe she's just like sells insurance now. Maybe she works for your friend at Prudential.
It's completely possible. The insurance isn't going to sell itself.
So what was it like the second time you came to Japan?
Second time I stayed with a family in Kyoto it was a family of a professor of botany at a local university. We did not get along very well. So they would basically read books at the dinner table. Their entire family would not speak to one another.
Oh, wow.
And I would just sort of sit there in the silent room and try to make conversation, and no one was looking at each other. I was like, am I the weird one here? Yes, but like, really?
But so basically, they invited you were an exchange student, basically,
yes.
Right? And
yep.
So this family who doesn't like to talk to each other, for some reason decided to bring in an exchange student.
I think it was they actually got a stipend, and I think I was being used for the money, actually.
Really?
I have a strong suspicion that's what was happening.
He works hard for the money. So hard. That must have been really awkward.
It was extremely strange.
How long were you there?
About 1 month, 1 or 2 months, just probably 1 month. There was 3 kids. The little boy was studying, doing juku, so he was, really good at English. He was the best at English in the whole family. He was also the youngest kid in the family.
What kind of books did he read at the dinner table?
I don't know. Maybe some sort of botany thing? Maybe following in his father's plant footsteps? I don't know. It's a good question. I'll never know what happened to them.
I could imagine a kid in that family, he's got the botany book and he pastes manga inside the botany book, so it looks like he's reading about plants, and it's like...
I wondered if, am I supposed to buy a book for dinner?
So, what book did you bring today, Jim?
Shonen Jump stapled inside of a book
What
about.
kind of plants do they talk about in this Shonen Jump?
I actually just got back from Kyoto, and my girlfriend kept telling me, yeah, people from Kyoto, they're very weird. They're very weird, over and over again. I don't know if we can put that on there because it might piss off everyone from Kyoto.
It's called Tokyo Wave, y'all.
No contact ban up in here. Save it.
But yeah, I guess even amongst Japanese people, people from Kyoto have a very specific kind of personality. It's a bit different.
Well, I think because Kyoto is the old capital, right? So there's this pride, and it's got a very almost academic sort of vibe.
I was lectured by a taxi driver on the history of Kyoto and how it was the capital for 1,000 years. Anything that was made in Japan was made and refined in Kyoto, and he was just reminding us that everything that exists here is because of the city.
So what happened after that whole thing 1,000 years ago?
I don't know.
So actually, a very funny story. But the second time that I went to Kyoto, I worked in a Nepali restaurant, Nepalese restaurant, and
different from the nipples we were talking about before.
A very nipply restaurant. And all of the bars in Sanjo, which is the part of Kyoto that's like sort of the Roppongi of Kyoto, they're all friends with each other, all the owners. And there's actually a large group of Nepali guys that are there too, and they're all very friendly with each other. And there was also a kebab shop that everybody would visit after a night on the town, and he was also friendly with everybody. On Facebook, several years later, I found that one of the Nepalese guys, they were all posting RIP about this one Nepalese guy, and apparently he got in a fist fight with the owner of the Sanjo kebab place. And the guy accidentally knocked him out so hard that his head hit the concrete and he died. One of the bar owners. And then the kebab owner is now in jail, and he's no longer operating a kebab shop.
Whoa, don't mess around with a kebab guy.
Yeah. I don't know if that'll make it because it's kind of dark, but yeah, it's an interesting story, though, nonetheless.
Those guys, they got that big knife, and they're kind of carving that big piece of meat, going around and around on the rotisserie. They look like pretty, bad motherfuckers.
It's a bummer because it was great kebabs, I don't know if we can ever go back to this kebab place.
Yeah. Cool. So I guess maybe you could tell us a little bit more.
Cool,
cool story. Okay, so you did a month in Kyoto. Did you go back to the States and then? Wait, are you from the States?
Yes, yeah, originally from New York.
Okay, cool.
From New York City or the other part?
From Woodstock, New York, the hippie part.
Oh,
yeah, peace, love.
Oh, you're the first person I've met from there. Very cool.
Yeah, we're a small community, but it's just a lot of old dudes. They never left. Just like their brains are fried, but they're very friendly.
Yeah,
very
so
safe.
I don't know if this is an imposition, but are your parents hippies?
They were pretty conservative for the area, which basically, if you weren't protesting regularly, you were a square. So my parents were total squares. My mom runs a film festival up there, though, for independent filmmakers. So
What's
she's
not that
sort of
square.
She's, I guess, the squarest person in the film festival. I guess you need somebody to clean up after the parties, right? That was her.
Very cool.
Does this film festival really need a mud pit? Really?
Why are all these nudists here? Is this contributing to the movie vibe?
We're supposed to be watching the movies, not making them.
Wait, so I think most people, know Woodstock for Woodstock Music Festival, but I mean, traditionally, has it always been kind of this hippie commune kind of place where everybody kind of who is a hippie gathers there?
Yeah, so it originally started as an arts colony in the 1800s for painters.
Oh, wow.
Mostly Impressionist painters. And then in the 60s, sort of became this home of the hippie music and mostly rock music movement for the United States. But yeah, it's always been sort of an arts-driven place.
Oh, wow. So the Pilgrims came over on the Mayflower, and so I guess the artist came over on the Flower. We just woke up and we're in upstate New York, man.
I think there's a lot of Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young songs about that for some reason.
Very cool. That's very interesting. Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I think most Americans don't know that. They just know, the music festival. So you went back there. Did you like finish college and then come back to Japan long term, or?
I did a bit of time at Waseda, doing like study abroad there. Then got my first job here in Japan. I worked for Rakuten, which for people who remember the Kobo, or anybody that's living in Japan who has been harassed to sign up for a Rakuten card, will know and also regret the fact that they know.
Well, Rakuten is amazing because it's, Japan's Amazon, but it's a little bit different. Amazon built its platform and its behemoth on having this super easy to use, super user-friendly system. And Rakuten also built this massive marketplace, but instead of user-friendliness, they chose to spam the bejesus out of everybody with an email every 5 minutes. Basically, right?
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at the website now, too, the UX is just like all over the place. Just like more is better, apparently, is like the total UX mantra for the place. So
classic. Yeah. I heard there's a floor in the Rakuten headquarters that they do approvals for the Rakuten credit cards, and it's all still paper-based. So they've got a floor with like 90 to 100 people just checking everything on paper for all the applications.
That's probably after my time, but I would not be surprised.
Yeah, so, they're the Amazon of Japan, but everything is still paper.
Take that, Bezos.
Japanese style.
Yeah.
I just love that they have this massive, office campus in Futako Tamagawa, which is, kind of outside of the center of Tokyo, which is kind of different. And their office has a name.
What is it?
It's called Crimson House.
Crimson House.
Does that sound like a period joke?
I thought it sounded like a pirate thing, right?
That's nice.
You're welcome to the Crimson House. Swab the deck, you scurvies. And it helps that it's right next to the water. I mean, they need a dock for the pirate ship, The Crimson Cruiser.
Very cool. Okay, so Waseda, and then after that, is when you were at Waseda, is that when you started maybe getting into comedy here? When did the comedy thing start?
Yeah, so I had joined the Charred Goosebeak team back in college about a year or so prior. Then this was in 2011, right when the earthquake had happened. So a lot of people had left. So they were holding auditions for new members of the Pirates of Tokyo Bay. So I did the audition then. And then joined the team.
So your probability might be a little bit better.
Yeah, just a little bit. There's been some openings due to some recent events.
Some fly gene related.
No specific reason. We just have 5 open spots. Yeah, so ever since I've been performing with them, so pretty regularly. So we were doing more video spots. We did a TED Talk. Doing some YouTube live videos and some scripted YouTube videos at the time. We do corporate workshops for a lot of companies that want to do just be improv based. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. We're about 16 members strong, half foreign, half Japanese. We perform at embassies and such, and it's a good time. It's a good activity for a lot of folks maybe who are in international relationships, because there's not a lot of comedy that works for both parties that's also relevant to Tokyo. So it's kind of cool that we can have it's based here. So we're doing fully Sokyo Konto, improvised scenes, but rather than taking place in New York or Chicago, all of the locations are at Lawson or at Donkey. And then half of the games will be in Japanese, half will be in English. So it's a really good time.
Well, it's kind of interesting because I think whenever you talk about something comedy related in Japan, especially if it's English language comedy, the first thing you always get is, Japanese people don't think that's funny.
True. I think also the manzai culture too, a little bit I have a hot take about manzai. I've always sort of felt...
We like hot takes.
Yeah, it's weird. If you look at the relationship between the tsukomi and the bokeh, I find sort of the bokeh sort of the heart of what the manzai duo does. He comes up with this sort of original idea, puts himself out there, and then tsukomi sort of comes in the end and just nandeyanen and hits him over the head and sort of act normal. be a regular Japanese person. Sort of like shuts down this great new funny idea. And it's just sort of like a metaphor for like the nail that sticks out gets hammered down. I do appreciate the bokeh. Like, I love the bokeh. Like, I just want to see the bokeh perform alone, like San Tsukomi, and it's so much more interesting. So that's why I think, I mean, there's people that are innovating in that like process a little bit. Like the group that won this year's M1 Grand Prix, Miruku Boy. They're a duo that sort of takes the bokeh Tsukomi relationship on its head. There's no like nandeyanen moment between them, which is why I like it. It's just two guys having a conversation and building on each other's ideas, which is what makes improv so fun. So they're a better group. There's a lot more better groups that are coming out. Some from Yoshimoto. There's a team of fully Japanese improvisers that do Chicago-style improv here called Empty Stage that is also really good to watch. When this COVID thing that I've been hearing about is over, definitely recommend going and checking it out, you guys.
So around, 2030, 2035.
Yeah, something like that.
Hopefully sooner. That sounds awesome, though.
Wow, you're like a real Japanese comedy aficionado.
There's a lot to... Well, that's hard to say. There's not a ton to watch if you like non-manza or non-rakugo. But there's some teams that are performing, doing more like fully improvised shows. That's where I think like the uniqueness is coming up. But they'll never make it to TV. Because if it's not a scripted thing with a set time amount, where this is where the joke is happening, then it's hard for them to get stage time. So really the live theaters where it's happening, but with things the way they are in the current state of the world, it's a little difficult.
That's interesting. So basically what you're saying is there's a whole different Japanese comedy that us people who only watch it on TV have never seen before.
Yeah, I think like Yoshimoto's investing. So they bring these coaches over from New York and Chicago that'll actually, like they don't speak a word of Japanese, but they'll hire these coaches and they'll hire a translator for the coach who will translate what's happening on stage. And then the coach will then say in English to the translator what to fix in the scene. So they're like fusing like their Japanese language and Japanese culture into a fully different art form, which is new in Japan. Like it's been going since the 80s in the US with Improv Olympic or the Del Close, who sort of popularized improvised comedy in America. But it's cool to see Japan taking that and making it its own. So hopefully that will continue to happen once Corona is over.
For sure. Have you seen an uptick on like YouTube Live or Twitch where, people who crave this kind of live entertainment are increasing in numbers on those platforms?
I know a lot of Yoshimoto's gone online, so they're doing more YouTube live events. I've been hearing that there's an interesting new platform that will hopefully make that even better, though, because right now the quality of live shows is not the best. So I've been hearing from a little bird that there is a good new platform that will make things even better, which I'm looking forward to seeing as a customer and as just an audience member. I think having that engagement and also just higher quality rather than people sitting at their desk trying to perform improv is a little bit difficult. We know that, but everybody's trying to do the best with the situation.
Right.
And so I didn't know this. So Yoshimoto is basically trying to revolutionize Japanese comedy.
In some ways, yeah. I think they have different teams based in their theaters across Japan. Some in Osaka. They have 2 theaters here, but the main group to watch would be called the Empty Stage. They're sort of a musical improv group. There's like 25 guys in it, but several of them are also manzai duos. So if you go there, you'll see people you recognize from television, or they will become a manzai duo. So they sort of train through this improvised art form. They get bits. They become closer to certain members of the team. Then they break off, and then they form manzai duos. And then they get commercial work. Then they go on TV.
So we're going to teach you how to do this avant-garde stuff, but we're also going to teach you how to slap each other in the face so that you can be able to eat something other than gyudon.
Yes, absolutely. That's exactly correct.
I found this ridiculous tidbit about Yoshimoto, their main office in Tokyo. Have you ever been there?
I've not been to the office, no.
So, do you know where it is?
No.
It is in a former elementary school that's right across the little alleyway that separates Golden Guy from not Golden Guy in Kabukicho.
Oh, wow.
So many wows. First of all, Why in the hell was there ever an elementary school across the street from Golden Guy? Who thought that was a good idea? Seriously. Second of all, by what, like, crazy cosmic synapse did Yoshimoto, the big comedy, basically it's the comedy talent agency of Japan. How did they come to rent an old elementary school from, I guess, Shinjuku Ward? And then on top of that, how insanely dumb were their management to put a place of business across the street from Japan's most debaucherous drinking hole? And, like, whenever something bad happens, with talent agencies or famous people in Japan, it always involves alcohol, right? And so they get drunk and they do dumb stuff, like the SMAP guy got naked and danced around in the park in Roppongi and got picked up by the police, etc., etc., etc. So, like, I guess, Yoshimoto wants that to happen more, so they put their office right across the street from a area of ill repute?
I guess, like, all press is good press, right? Especially if these guys are eating gyudon all the time. Like, any news is, like, great news. Make a fake article about yourself. Put some guerrilla work.
Go nuts.
Might have been a really good business move.
Apparently they have, like, press conferences in, like, old classrooms.
Wow.
I guess the seating's right there, though, so they have everything that they need.
Can you imagine all the reporters sitting in those little ass chairs?
Not social distancing.
Can I ask another question?
No, but Jim, you brought up something really interesting. Talking about how your comedy is for these almost international couples as well as
Yes.
main target audience. So my girlfriend's Japanese, and I'm obsessed with Eric Andre.
Oh, absolutely.
And,
the new special's so good.
Oh my god, it's so good.
Phenomenal.
And
especially second half of it. It picks up.
It's too nuts. Like, it gave me anxiety. Like,
Yeah.
he's too crazy in it. But before that, I was really into Tim and Eric as well. And when I first came to Japan in 2009, I had such a difficult time trying to show Japanese people. Well, at that time it was Tim and Eric, but then after that, Eric Andre, around like 2012 when he got really popular. It was so hard. But I finally, like, watching Eric Andre on the Netflix special, they have the Japanese Jimaku now, which is great. Finally. But before that, it was YouTube videos, and I think in 2015, like, my girlfriend and a bunch of American friends were watching it, and I was like just laughing so hard, I was crying. Like, I think I was just like, everyone was snorting, crying, laughing on the ground, and my girlfriend's like, "What the hell? Like, what's so funny about it?" And I like a year ago, I think while watching it, I was translating it into Japanese and trying to get it. She finally got it. It was like and then when she got it, she was able to watch it without any, subtitles and think it was funny. But it took a long time. Like,
it makes sense, though. Like, since sarcasm doesn't really translate well. And also, like, the way a mental model that I used to think about comedy is like concentric circles. So if you think of the middle circle, it's something that everybody can understand. Like, why did the chicken cross the road? And then as you get to an outer circle, people that are still in the middle circle look out at it and they say, "That's weird. That's stupid." And then people on the more meta circles are just like, "We know it's stupid. That's why it's funny."
Right.
It's meta.
Right.
Like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
We intentionally said something stupid, and we're looking at ourselves telling the joke, and that's why we enjoy it. That's so much of what Tim Heidecker and Eric Wareham do too. So, like, that makes a lot of sense. And I think once you can jump to the outer concentric circle, as it sounds like your girlfriend did, then you can enjoy it.
Yeah, it took a lot of time though. Like, as you said, it's you have to really change the way you think about comedy completely, because it's this absurdist kind of humor, right?
Absolutely.
That's a great analogy though.
Yeah, speaking of funny things, the Scatman, what's up with that?
Oh my God. Guys, so if you have not watched a little bit of Scatman trivia, do I have a story for you? So you're both familiar with Scatman, John? Exactly.
That guy, right?
Absolutely. So
Is there something beyond that?
there's a lot beyond it. So first thing, did you know that Scatman John has a severe stutter? Had a severe stutter. He grew up, he was so he had such crippling anxiety about public speaking that he physically couldn't do it without stuttering. So he got into scat. which he then released that, I think, 1994, 1995 album.
You got into scat. That doesn't have a
I don't know what you could possibly mean by that.
Poop connotation. We're not talking about poop, right?
No. But so scat is a sort of jazzy art form which uses sort of like beatboxing, if you can think of beatboxing in the 1940s or 50s.
There's no poop.
No poop whatsoever. Okay. I'm sure maybe there's some lace references within the lyrics. But Scatman, so he had this severe stutter, released that song, and then it was a hit in Japan, obviously, as it was. It was number one in the Euro charts as well. It was so big in Japan, in fact, that he released several Japan-only songs, including one, Susu Supa Kide, which is a song that Scatman John sings in Japanese and performed to like a top 15 Oricon charts when that song came out.
It's like Scatman John at the Budokan.
Absolutely. And for anybody at home, if you want to probably pee yourself laughing, I recommend searching Scatman Kawaii Japan and look for the YouTube clip of the girl cosplaying dressed as Scatman John singing in karaoke in a sort of a karaoke contest.
So basically, Scatman John is like Tommy Lee Jones. He was a thing around the world, but he just continued to become bigger and bigger only in Japan.
Absolutely. Yeah. Except he didn't get any coffee commercials. He just sort of got to stand next to Tamari-san and continue doing beatboxing scat for people.
Ah, well, they do kind of dress similarly.
A little bit.
I guess maybe that was the joke, because like I always wondered, is there like some connection between Scatman John and like the Blues Brothers? I mean, is that like a thing?
I guess that he might have had another untalented brother like Jim Belushi, potentially.
You know, someone with a stutter, it actually makes sense that they might actually be able to provide an interesting flair to scatting and jazz music.
Absolutely. It's very uplifting music. You know, the lyrics are about, like, he says, everybody has a stutter or one way or another.
That's great. That's great.
But I highly recommend looking at this, the karaoke video, or him performing on the music, I think Space Channel, I think he was performing on. There's some comedy gold in there.
Gotta check it out.
Is it supposed to be funny, or is it just funny?
It's, I think, the latter.
Okay.
I would say, but there, yeah, it is pretty hilarious. It's minutes of fun. You guys enjoy it.
I need to see a video of this. For some reason, the only thing going on in my head right now is that Kanye West rap where he's like, scoop diddy doop, scoop diddy poop diddy.
That's kind of like scat.
I don't know why that's going on in my head.
It's the other scat.
Can you guys put YouTube videos in this program, or can you?
Oh, the audio, yeah.
The audio of this this probably 14-year-old idol girl trying to sing Scatman is the funniest thing that I've ever seen in my entire life. And after that we can watch together. But it is so, it's just so funny. She fails as she's trying to read in katakana the words to the song "I'm the Scatman," and having a panic attack on stage as she's dressed like the Scatman. And everybody in the audience is just yelling, "Gambare! Gambare!" She's like,
sounds kind of sad.
It's a little sad, but mostly just
it sounds
hilarious.
really funny.
And so maybe this is like a polygraph. You show this video to someone, and then based on how hard they laugh, you can determine how terrible a human being they are.
I would definitely be on the furthest side of the terrible spectrum by this.
Somewhere around there, next to, Charles Manson and Osama bin Laden.
Who was notoriously loved videos of Scatman. Okay.
That's like me when I first came to Japan trying to do karaoke of Japanese hip-hop songs.
Oh, that's the best.
Wow.
That's the best.
So I was in a Japanese company around 2012, and it was a super Japanese company. It was a venture company, but I was doing kind of social media consulting, and it was super, kind of like Rakuten. They had like a field day. Did you ever go to field day?
No.
I'm sure Rakuten has a field day, but like you go to this random venue and it's like this all day, it's like school, and you do like skits and you do like random sports thingies. It really feels like you're in grade school, and it's like sports day.
That's wild. We definitely had something similar, but it was a dance competition.
Ooh.
So we had to do a scripted dance, and I was in the travel team, and we were forced to do this unpaid dance overtime. And we did a yosakoi every day for weeks. We had to spend 2 hours learning this very intricate choreographed dance, and then we had to put on makeup, the whole yosakoi makeup, purple flowing robes, and do this dance for Hiroshi Mikitani. And sitting next to him, the two founders of Dropbox, who were brought to Japan for this amazing event. So I'm standing there and I'm just mortified. I'm like, why are we doing this? Like, please don't make me go on stage. And I lock eyes immediately with the Dropbox founder, and I'm just like, oh fuck. And I'm doing the dance. We're going, hoi, hoi, and I blank, and I just like my arms stop moving, and I lost it for a full second and a half, which is an eternity in a yosakoi song. And both the Dropbox founders are looking at the one white guy in the purple that looks like a kabuki actress or something. I don't even know what I looked ridiculous.
Well, we're experts on syncing, and that guy is not syncing.
So bad. Oh, it's still like the worst moment of my life. It was.
And so I had a similar moment, not quite as bad. I didn't realize this at the time, but we had to do the NHK Rajio Taiso, which is pretty easy. Anybody can do it, from a little child to someone who's 99 years old in Japan. But I'd never done it before, one. And two, I have the kind of physical coordination ability to copy dance moves of a sloth walrus. I'm really bad at that sort of thing. And, everybody's doing Rajio Taiso, and so I kind of tried to step back a little bit in the back so that nobody would notice. And I'm trying to do it, I'm just kind of half-assing it. What I didn't know is one of my industrious colleagues immediately realized that he was witnessing the funniest shit that was going to happen that day. And that motherfucker took a video of it and put it on YouTube.
Ooh, that's illegal. You gotta get your written consent to do that.
But so it's somewhere on the internet. Maybe it's not YouTube. I think it was maybe it was Facebook, actually. But there's this random video out there of me doing the most uninspired, terrible Rajio Taiso that was ever done. In this, we were in the we were not in the Budokan. We were in Kokugijo, the famous sumo stadium, with 1,000 people. One gaijin who does not get it. I was that gaijin.
It's a great honor. It is a great honor to be that gaijin, though.
Thankfully, no one from Dropbox was there. That would have made it a lot worse.
Oh man,
I gotta give you the point for that one.
yeah, that's a great story, man. Holy shit,
terrible. I see pictures of it and I just have like flashbacks, like I was in Nam or something.
Back in 73. Like, you just go to festivals and you see the yosakoi dancers and you're just like,
but whenever anything syncs on my hard drive, no.
palpitations. So, Jim, you also tell me that you have some experience in Japan's storied wine industry.
Absolutely. Yes. So I worked for a number of years, pretty much every summer from 2006 to 2010, working in the wine industry. It's unique here. So the way that the industry works back in the United States, which is different, you think of it like 3 tiers, like the supplier, so like a Bacardi or a Gallo wine, then supplies to a distributor. And then the distributor has a sales network that then goes out to the restaurants, stores. Stores are called off-premise because the drinks are consumed off-premise. And then on-premise would be restaurants and bars. So they have separate sales teams for that. Whereas Japan has sort of a 4-tier model, which begins with the suppliers. And then there's a level 1 distributor, then a level 2 distributor. So you'll have little local garages throughout Japan that are servicing all the restaurants. And they'll carry products from everybody. And then obviously the last tier being the on or off-premise location. But the way the industry works here is like Suntory and Kirin, they sort of consolidated to also do distribution. So if you're a foreign brand that wants to sell in Japan, you need to use the distribution network for it, from a Kirin, a Diageo. Like Diageo will, they may have their own distribution network now, but they'll sort of pony up to one of these more established Japanese brands who will do their distribution for them. And then if you can get one of your bottles in like Lawson, I think last time I checked has like 14,000 POS. If you can get one placement in one of those Lawsons, and think of the amount of churn that you get from one MPN or one model, like one bottle, one of those shelf placements. It's crazy revenue. Yeah, so it's pretty interesting.
So Franzi has made it big time.
Yes, yeah. I mean, if you imagine, like, if you can get in one placement into a convenience store or something like that, that's just recurring revenue. And the amount of times that, like, I think 7-Eleven, they restock their shelves more than, like, 10 times a day. There's constantly trucks coming in and out and turning, and they're always looking at their sales and then adjusting the shelves based on that. But it's a pretty interesting industry here, yeah.
So in like Japan's wine industry, obviously you've got, these super high volume things like convenience stores, and you've also got liquor stores, and I guess you've also got wine bars and wine clubs and wines. And what is that like from basically it's kind of like a channel sales sort of situation. So how does one create a strategy for the wine?
There's a lot of there's a lot of components to it. So the bottles here need to be a lot more earthquake resistant. So they have special machines to test the glass, to shake them. So they're a lot more reinforced here than in other countries. That's one thing. Also, the labeling is, if you have a foreign brand, they have to put a sticker over it that has the Japanese labeling. So the process of going through that's pretty difficult. So it's really a lot of only volume brands can really make money here, as opposed to a smaller producer from like Judah, France, or Washington State, like winery that wants to start selling to Japan. There's so many hoops they have to jump through to do it, right? And to really do volume, like wine's very profitable for restaurants here too. Like usually, the glass of wine cost that you pay at the restaurant is what the restaurant here paid for the bottle itself. And if you think you get like four to five glasses from that, that's just pure profit after they make their money back on that first glass. So it's what keeps a lot of the restaurants afloat, especially right now in COVID, like when they don't have that liquor revenue coming in and they're having to do a lot of takeout. It's a huge blow to their businesses if they can't sell liquor.
Wow. So basically for what the customer pays for glass, that's the bottle.
Yeah. They make their money back on that. And then here for off-premise, they'll usually only mark it up 30%. So if you think how good of a deal it is to buy a good wine from a store is a much better deal. But then to get into a Kinokuniya or one of the bigger wine shops is a lot of hoops that you have to jump through. So it's really only the bigger brands like the Conchatoro, or which owns Casillero del Diablo, Frontera, those brands that you'll see around. It's really only them that can really make a lot of money here. A lot of wineries will also, the metaphor that I've heard them use is they try to hire their own sales teams, and they think of Japan as an ocean that they need to build a bridge of people over. And then they realize that Japan's actually a small pond, and then they've built this giant bridge for this pond, and now they've hired too many people, and I've heard of entire sales teams getting just fired in like a summer.
Because at the end of the day, a lot of it depends on the distributor.
Yes, yeah. And you can utilize the distributor sales team then to go out and do your work for you.
This sounds just like the industry I work in a biotech. They have a hugely consolidated hundreds, probably thousands of different large and small distributors into one gigantic distributor network. That's a total clusterfuck, for lack of a better word. But
yeah, Japan's distribution systems can be super complicated, and I mean, I think it reminds me of the way that Tokyo was built. Like, somebody just didn't wake up one day and decide, I'm going to make Tokyo like this. It sort of developed organically, and I think the same thing can be said for these distribution systems. They've been built over, decades or even hundreds of years, and they've been built and kind of reinforced as the need has grown. And so you have these sort of unwieldy and inefficient to the outside observer, but I guess inside the network, it's like, well, this is the way we've been doing it since 1675.
Definitely.
At the Crimson House.
Yar!
And then there's like lots of support inside the network too for even maybe this is true in the wine industry, but just in where I work as well. You know, if distributor A is not doing too well, all the other distributors will help out. You know, I think there's always like, you know, a sense of competition, but it's more of this kind of keeping everyone alive, not so much destroying your competition, but just like maintaining the status
It's like
quo.
that Bee Gees song. Ha, 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 ha.
Staying alive, staying alive.
Right?
That makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Which isn't the staying alive is also the correct BPM for when you're trying to resuscitate somebody?
Really?
That's what they actually tell you. And if somebody's having a heart attack, this staying alive is the exact.
Don't die, don't die.
Knowledge bomb right there. That's good.
Whoa. They didn't do that on purpose, did they?
The Bee Gees, I think there was a lot of other things that they were doing in the 70s.
Just in case somebody ODs at the disco, just put Staying Alive on. Everybody, you guys know what to do. Get out to the dance floor. Put those straws down.
And save Brian.
Oh man.
So I did not a CPR, I guess CPR training here for my company now. And there's these orange boxes that they have in every company here. And they're different than the CPR machines for the US. So you go and they give you these little stickers, and you're instructed to put them on 3 points in the body. And then it's like a electricity jolt that you turn on, and it just shocks the person's heart.
Yeah, the AEDs.
The AEDs. Yeah. Those are pretty.
And so in America, you break the box and there's like a Walkman inside.
Yeah.
With a tape of the Bee Gees.
Yeah.
Listen to this while you pump the heart.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Same difference.
Yes.
Are those the things that you have to stick it so like if you're hairy, if you have a hairy chest, it won't stick?
Yeah.
Oh god.
Yeah, so basically, Aaron, in Japan, you're going to die, so maybe in your house, just, keep the Bee Gees in a very accessible place.
Oh man.
Maybe you get one of those, stuffed animals, you press it, and, it starts playing the Bee Gees.
It's for your health.
Yeah.
You know?
It's a lot cheaper than an AED. Those things are expensive. I think there was some sort of procurement scandal about those, too, like some overcharging or...
Really? Somebody
Yeah.
was the people that were producing and selling the AEDs?
I don't know this for a fact. I might be talking out of my ass, as I often do, but yeah, I think there was some malfeasance around the AED units. I remember hearing about that somewhere.
Really? Huh.
Some kickbacks or something.
Huh. New scandals.
It's a
Hot new
little-
AED scandals.
Get that electric jolt back into your pocket.
Nice doing business with you.
And so you also told us that you're into record collecting.
Yes.
So records like wax,
Yeah,
12-inch?
all vinyl. I think there's a lot of, especially in Japan, it never sort of went down. But there's so many great record stores. Like, if you're into vinyl, I know right now Recofan in Shibuya is actually going out of business, which is like a huge record store. It's take up an entire floor of the Parco building. So yeah, I mean it's and so many records that are produced through from the 60s through today that are produced here have Japan only songs. So if you're getting records, especially like Motown, I'm a big funk and Motown fan. A lot of groups from the 70s would produce Japan only tracks that you can only get here, and those aren't digital. It's before. Spotify, Apple Music.
Because in record stores they have the rare groove section, right? So it is a rare groove.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's something for the fans that were always buying music here. Digital's obviously a much smaller thing here, but as I think you guys have spoken about, AKB fans will buy CDs to get more of the tickets to meet the artist. So hard media is still, if you look at Tsutaya, they're still renting out discs.
Oh yeah.
It's still a big revenue maker for them. So I think real physical thing, and especially with vinyl now having a resurgence around the world. I think it never died in Japan, so it's a great place to be a record fan.
Absolutely.
And so also, do you still DJ?
I do, yes. Not right now, for some obvious reasons. But my next
DJ Mitsu!
featuring Yuriko Koike. But yeah,
Mitsu, this.
I'm if you guys can't see me, but I'm currently dancing to that. Yes, I perform mostly like tech house in around Shibuya, but a lot of the clubs here. My next show will be at Vision in September. This is my first time playing main stage at Vision, so I'm very excited.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Vision's a great club.
Yeah, I'm performing with my friend Mark Milla, who's a phenomenal tech house DJ, the best I've ever known.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Back to the record collection talk. Obviously, this podcast is heavily inspired by Vaporwave. And, Vaporwave takes a lot of samples and cuts from 70s and 80s Japanese funk, Japanese city pop. And I'm a huge fan of that era of Japanese music, and I love records here as well. I mean, the Japanese keep the records in such good condition also.
Absolutely.
Right? That's another big point, I think.
Whenever I'm buying a record, it's always like, B. And I guess, I'm sure, Japanese record aficionados are like, B, I don't want this garbage. Turn this into some candles or something.
And then you take it home and listen to it, and it's like, this sounds perfect.
Yeah. Where's the B?
Yeah. No, when I worked for Bang & Olufsen too, I forget the name of the record, but there's certain records they have in Japan, you can only listen to it 5 times. Because it's so pure and the way they carve it, and I forget the material they use, but it will deteriorate after you listen to it 5 times, so that the sound will go away, because it's actually carved into the vinyl. So yeah, Japan's crazy about this kind of stuff.
Another fun fact: are you guys familiar with Rockin' Japan, the magazine, and the music festival in Ibaraki?
No.
Rockin' Japan. It's the biggest sort of mostly foreign music, but a lot of interviews with foreign artists and such. You know how Oasis is still really big in Japan for some
That's right.
inexplicable reason? There's a reason. So Rockin' Japan, the founder, the main editor in the 90s, was a Japanese guy who he loved Manchester music. Because he was always promoting the Stone Roses, The Cure, who's still big here. They play pretty much every Fuji rock. Now, the 1975, the Pale Waves, a lot of these artists from this little rainy town in England, he loved this town so much that he would promote it through the 90s. So that's why Radiohead, a lot of these artists, Radiohead's big everywhere, but especially Manchester music, it's still big here. So that's why Oasis is so massive in Japan, because of this one magazine that's just pushing Manchester down Japan's collective throat.
Next month in our special issue, Oasis.
Again. Have you guys heard about these guys?
Oasis.
If they probably went a month without talking about it, I bet everyone would just stop listening. I don't know.
Well, it's interesting how, music culture, I think, worldwide, it's become so heavily influenced overseas by digital and by streaming and by YouTube. But Japan still, it's not that Japan's in the Stone Age. I mean, people still listen to YouTube and whatnot, but the way that people consume music here and get turned on to new artists, I mean, the systems, the avenues are different, and they can be a little bit more old school than what we're seeing in other markets.
No, for sure. One of my favorite things coming to Japan and going to Tsutaya and Gale, where you can rent the CDs. You can rent the CDs, and then they've got a huge rack of all the blank CDs, so you can go home and burn the CDs.
Shh, don't tell anybody what we're doing.
It's so obvious. Have you guys noticed how obvious it is, though?
Well, just this is gonna date like when I came to Japan. Mini disc.
Oh yeah.
It's kind of funny because you don't really associate a place like Japan with something like, music piracy. But, it's dubbing. Dubbing is a thing, dubbing group.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's totally, I mean, if you ever go to a movie here, they're very, very anti-piracy, anti-downloading, anti-torrenting. But it's just so funny to me that...
We also invented the cassette player and the mini disc and
Walkman.
reel to reel.
And
Basically, every way you can steal music, that is a Japanese invention, except for Napster.
True.
Old Sean Parker figured that out out before we could. Well, Jim, thank you so much for coming on Tokyo Wave today. Obviously, in the middle of this global pandemic, it might be a little bit paranoia-inducing to be on a live taping session, but I hope that this is not your last time on the show. And before we wrap up our session today, I just wanted to ask, if there's anything you wanted to shout out or remind our listeners of, things you might be doing in the next couple of weeks or months. And you mentioned some Pirates of Tokyo Bay shows, and also you're going to DJ at that club in Shibuya.
Yes. Yeah, the Pirate. Thank you. So it's great hanging out with you guys. I'm a fan of the show, so it's an honor to be here. I've listened to you every week, so this is kind of surreal.
6.
Hell yeah. Cool to see the bunker, though, this undisclosed location that we're hanging out underneath Tokyo. It's pretty great. The next Pirate show will be August 30th. It's at piratesoftokyobay.com/live. So you can check us out. We do fully improvised comedy in both English and Japanese that you can watch from the comfort of your own home for the time being. So looking forward to that, and would love to virtually see all of you there. Yeah.
Thanks so much.
yes, Jim, thank you so much. Hope to have you back soon.
Hey, listeners, that's right. You listener right there.
Who do you think should be our next guest on Tokyo Wave? Let us know. Drop us a line at wave@tokyowave.jp. That's wave@tokyowave.jp.
We hope you enjoyed Tokyo Wave.
If you haven't already, you can subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube.
Join us again next week on Tokyo Wave.